Well, I am back with Francois Leroux, one of the instructors on the loan operator course. Rian Kutsia, Fortis Proactive Defense Solutions. And this is part 2 of our chat about the importance of good situational awareness. Now, we've covered in the first video, we've covered quite a bit of the basics. What I want to get to here, Francois, is how can I develop situational awareness and how can I turn it into a daily habit or a lifestyle? Because, you know, we were just discussing that so many people don't do it. So where do I start?
Rian, always good to be back. Yeah, so the biggest thing is to remember is you want to take in information. So anything that blocks you from doing that is a no-go. Phones, earphones, having an argument in the middle of a mall, being distracted by whatever is going on, the car guard distracting you while one of his buddies grabs your laptop out of the back of the car, stuff like that. So yeah, you want to get in all that information. Yeah, so that is the first thing you want to do is remember that the most important thing you want is information. So the way we gather all of that information, you have to use your senses. You have to use your sight, your sound, and your smell, and trust yourself on it. If you hear something, so yeah, one of the biggest things we struggle with in our area with the community is to actually get them to distinguish between a loud sound and a gunshot. And they sound completely different. For anybody that's heard it a couple of times, they sound completely different. But yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the things. But I'd rather have someone phone in a truck backfiring as a gunshot than not phoning in a gunshot at all, because that information is important. So yeah, so using that sound, what do you hear? A tire bursting, tire squealing, someone screaming, a baby suddenly starting to cry, something dropping, someone dropping their groceries or whatever. Stuff like that. A car door opening, but you're not seeing anybody. You hear the latch, but there's nobody. Because they love doing that when they jam you and all of that stuff. So yeah, using that sound, that is a very important part. And then smell, of course, if you smell something funny, if it's a fire or gas or whatever, trust it. And think about, do I always smell it at the same place? Close to my work, there's a perfume factory. And so when I go for a little walk to stretch my legs, that same spot has always got perfume. You always smell perfume in that exact same. That's just the way the wind flows. So it's kind of become normal for me to there's going to be perfume. And it's kind of weird that my brain picks it up when it's not there. If it's a windless day, you immediately start kind of picking, oh, where's that nice smell that used to be? So that's two of the ways to pick up your senses. And one of the very important ones, and the one your brain reacts to the quickest, is sight. Your eyes are directly connected to your brain. There's no processing that has to go on for you to kind of figure out what's going on. Your eyes can process very quickly. So looking, like we were talking on our previous video, just looking and observing is going to be your best friend. Walking to your car, looking around your car, what's going on. If you hear something outside, look through the windows. What's going on? What is my neighbors doing? Why is the dog barking? Yeah, just get that information in there and process it. And the more you do it, the more you're aware, the better you become at judging what is going on. One of the things, I'm close to a main road, so one of the things that always catches is a truck with a flat tire. It makes an horrendous freaking sound. The first time you hear it, you're basically scared out of your wits. And then next time it's like, okay, yeah, that's what it is. And then middle of the night you wake up again, it's like, what? Okay, no, it's that. It's just kind of you get processing and you start becoming just better at it. It's a practice thing, like everything in life. You just develop that all awareness.
So I wanna make a statement and see if you agree with me. It starts with a choice. I'm going to be more situationally aware. I'm going to try and make myself a harder target, and that means it's a choice that you make. So it's your mindset must change,
Definitely.
and you work from there. You agree?
Yeah, definitely. And on that point, my choice was made in 2013 when I was burgled, sleeping in my bed, all my stuff taken around me. And I just said, I will not be a victim. I will not allow my family to be hurt by this stuff. I'm done. I'm not going to hide my head in the sand anymore. This is now thing. You have to make that decision that this is the line. It has now been put in concrete, basically. And yeah, from here on forward, we improve.
So Um, the things that I want to also touch on in this part of the discussion is, and that it goes back to not falling into the trap of your cell phone, or even in a conversation when you walk around talking to people, or you have your kids with you, your smaller kids with you. I mean, they do distract you because they're busy and they demand attention, and you want to know where they are and that sort of stuff. Be in the moment now, be in the now, so that you know. Don't you can stress about the problems when you sit down to have a coffee, but when you're out there, just relax and observe, be in the moment, so you can take all this stuff in. And another one that to me, this is a very important one, because many people battle with it. You have to actually accept responsibility for your own safety when you make the choice.
That's a big one.
Like you said in 2013, when you had people in your house to rob all your stuff all around you, you accepted that responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a choice that has to be made at some point. But yeah, on the staying in the present, there's a saying, can't call it exactly, but if you think too much about the future, you're ruining your present. Because all we have is the present at the end of the day.
I like that. That works for me. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about the OODA loop, but maybe what we can do on the OODA loop is, if somebody is watching the video who's not certain what the OODA loop is, maybe just explain very quickly what the OODA loop is and what it stands for, all the 4 words, so that people can just understand. When we talk about OODA loop, they are on the same page as us.
Okay, so basically the OODA loop is just OODA is just the acronym for observe, orientate, decide, and act. So that's just basically what you're going to do in any situation. You're going to observe, see something happening, then you're going to orientate yourself, then you're going to decide, what am I going to do about this? And then I'm going to act. And that loop never stops. That's a continuous life loop, basically. So as soon as you act, I'm running to my car. Then again, when you get to your car, you're gonna observe, am I safe at my car? Can I drive away? Gonna orientate myself. How can I get out of the parking lot? And then you're gonna decide to get in your car, start it, drive that way. And then when you're in your car again, you have to act, do what you planned on doing, and then you start again. And then that loop, that observe, orientate, decide, and act just never stops. That is just, and even in your daily life, we don't even realize that we do it. That is most of our lives, basically the OODA loop.
Yeah. I want to sketch a situation here, because to me, this is part of this whole laying the foundations of making this into a habit. Let's say you and your wife you're going to watch some show at, say, Monte Casino, in the theater there. You've never been there before. With this mindset, what do you do when you get there to ensure that where exits are, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so this is probably going to be different for everyone, but I'm a person that has to be prepared. So I'm gonna check maps. I'm gonna all of that. I don't really do spur of the moment things, because that's usually how you end up in a situation where you don't want to be. So I would check maps. I would check where's the best entrances, and even if you can figure out where the cash and transit vehicles are. Sometimes on Street View you can actually see where cash and transit vehicles move a lot. So that's something I try and avoid. But yeah, that's the kind of place where you have to go in. Luckily, that's a place with high security, but I'm not gonna trust their security with my life. I'm still gonna be aware.
No,
I'm still gonna observe.
I prefer.
Yeah, there's no security like your own security.
Because I will do that, and I've had friends frown at me. Go to a mall where I haven't been before, for instance. I first walk around and check where the emergency exits are. I've walked emergency exits. The consternation, the security sometimes, because for some odd reason they don't like you in the emergency exits, which is a bit weird, because as far as I know, they are there to get you the hell out of Dodge in case there is an emergency. So if you don't know where they lead to, I don't want to find out if somebody shoots, if there's a robber and he's shooting, I don't want to then have to find out where this emergency exit leads to and where you come. I want to know that beforehand.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that will increase my odds. And I've done this, gone to shows, at theaters in a couple of places. And then if I'm there with a group, I'll say to them, excuse me, I want to just go to the bathroom. Then I go for a walk. I go, where's my nearest exit? How do I get there the fastest? I want to know these things.
Yeah.
Then I can enjoy the show,
Yeah.
in case something happens. I want to know. I don't want to be part of the stampede of the people trying to get up the stairs, because you and I know that there's going to be a problem.
Definitely.
And I think it's at that point when you start realizing that you've started establishing a habit, and I think it's a good habit.
Definitely.
Specifically in South Africa.
It's increasing your survivability. It's knowing the exits, knowing other exits. I'm a big thing of finding a bullet stop, because security guards and criminals in South Africa, they shoot wild. So I always like to find concrete, because a lot of the buildings are not necessarily, especially malls and stuff, it's mostly glass. So I want to know, where can I go hide if I need to hide? Where can I get out? If you especially like movie theaters and stuff like that, where you're kind of confined, where do you go? And like you say with the stampede, there's always that thing. There's a thing that says, when the panic hits, look for the one guy that's calm and do what he does. And that's what you want to be. You want to be that guy that's calm. And not run. That's the biggest thing. In the movies, you always see everybody they fire, and then everybody runs. And we've seen it on the news. So many stampedes, soccer matches, and stuff like that people have gotten seriously injured because of that. And then they just completely panic. If you just stood still and just observed for a second, orientated yourself, then you would have probably been fine.
True. I like that. Well, as we are talking about this, I'm just thinking back to all the people who have seen me do things like this in real life, and basically said, dude, you need to relax. And I said to them, no, you don't understand. Now I am going to be relaxed, because I've done some homework here now. I feel better. I feel more prepared. I feel safer to sit and chill and watch the show, knowing what I know now. And for some people, it's like you're talking about an alien world. And I don't really know, without drawing pictures, how you can make it more clear how much importance there is in something as simple as this. Honest to goodness. I want to talk about psychological or cognitive biases that can affect your ability to assess your surroundings accurately, and how you can overcome these things. Cognitive bias is effectively a shortcut, like a memory type of shortcut. Confirmation biases, I've made a little list here. Inattentional biases, optimism bias, that's a big one. Anchoring bias, and then groupthink. You mentioned this. Look at the calm guy and do what he does. So group thinking is often, you're assuming that things are fine because, well, nobody else is looking alarmed. Maybe they are not looking alarmed because they are not noticing the problem. So if you bargain on that instead of your gut feel, it might bite you in the backside badly.
Yeah.
And then habituation. if you stop, and you mentioned the perfume, I think. Yes, the perfume.
Yeah.
That's a habituation thing, is where when you reach that point, you're going to smell perfume, and you always do. And then the one day you walk past and you don't smell perfume, and you're probably going to wonder what the hell's going on. Why is there no smell of perfume? And I spoke with, who was it, Rein, about security and safety on farms. And a thing that he mentioned pops out at me now. He said if he approaches his gates at his house and his dogs do not come charging out to greet him at the gate, he just drives on. So that's a repeated thing that you notice, even if it's strange, like the perfume. That is not necessarily standard, but you notice the gaps in that.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we start with normalcy bias, so yeah, so that's basically getting used to things. That is basically what I was in 2013. I was used to everything was okay in my house. There was no issues. There was no threat. We have a quiet neighborhood. We have one of the very quiet neighborhoods left in the south, the east of Pretoria. So I was nice and calm until it wasn't normal anymore. Unfortunately, that's how it usually goes, and we have that issue still with people in this area where they like, nah, no, I'm not joining CPF, I'm not helping the community, and then there's a break-in or their gas bottle gets stolen, and then suddenly they just want to go crazy. And it's we set up ourselves for failure basically. And I understand it. It's a psychological thing. That's how we are. And you want things to stay normal. That's what we are. We're creatures of habit. So yeah, it's just the way we want things to be. We want it to be normal. Like Rein said with his dogs. I had a cat previously that cat, if I stopped at home, that cat would run right to me. And I always now kind of thing when the cats aren't normal, then something's wrong, because my cats are very protective of me because I'm basically all they have. I've got tenants, so dogs aren't really an option at this stage. So that people don't think I'm not a dog person. I'm an animal person, less of a people person sometimes. But yeah, that normalcy gets you. Yeah, that just getting used to stuff. Getting in the habit, and the habit's not necessarily a bad thing, but always be aware. Always take in that information. Be aware of what's going on.
Um, the whole group thing about people. I mean, I do look at people's behavior when I enter, let's say, I don't know, let's say a church. You expect a certain type of behavior. So you see that, and okay, that looks normal for where you are. And suddenly there's somebody behaving in a different way, and it really just stands out for you. Like my guy today, when I was trying to purchase something over the counter, who suddenly was not behaving in a standard fashion. I'm still trying to get over how angry this guy. He went from 0 to 100 in like a split second. It was unreal, that quick. It's actually, I think he's got stuff bothering him that he acted
Unfortunately,
like. But that was like way, way out of the norm. So I think these are the things that you need to be aware. Like even if you're optimistic about stuff, and something happens that sort of dampens you, and your gut feel says to you that's not right. You have to listen to it. I mean, I've learned that lesson about gut feel. I've
yeah,
learned it the hard way. You never ever ignore. And everybody's gut feel is different. So if my gut feel says something, yours may say something else. But I'm going to react in the way I want. I need to quieten my little voice saying to me, "Don't like this," for whatever reason. I'll ask questions later. I don't stand there and interrogate myself.
yeah,
I'll do the interrogation later, just to be on the safe side. Um, I think I'm going to end it there. I think we've covered a very broad basis of this, and I hope and trust that the message that goes out from all of this is very clear that if you are not doing this, if you haven't made this choice yet, maybe it's something that you need to give some serious consideration to, because it really can save your backside and it can really get you out of very sticky situations.
Definitely.
I mean, how often haven't we heard of people driving from the airport? I'm thinking of a case now. Oh, this is several years ago. This person drove all the way from the airport back to Pretoria, and it turns out that they were following him. They could then trace this back, and he was followed from the airport. And they, when he pulled up in his driveway in front of his gate, they parked behind him and they hijacked him and took his car. And that's all the way from the airport. So it's
Wow.
very easy. If you're not in this habit, it's actually scarily easy how quickly things can start going south.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you stop just observing stuff like because he had that's what 30 minutes drive on a good day that he had time to figure out that just somebody's following him. So yeah, that's basically dropping the ball on that one.
Big time, big time. And I mean, it cost him. It cost him dearly. And it's the idea isn't to point fingers, obviously, but we need to use situations like this to also learn from it. I mean, it's the same. They do the same with aircraft accidents, which are
Yeah.
never nice. But every time there's an aircraft accident, they learn something from that makes aviation safer in the long run. So I think it's important to have these discussions and to be open and honest and brutally frank about it, because that's how you learn. Francois, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This is such an interesting topic. I actually love talking about it. So thank you for taking the time, and I hope you have a wonderful Easter weekend. And yeah, I know there's training, so do enjoy the training and be safe. We will talk again soon.
Hey, thank you, Rian. Always a pleasure.